MeomaikA is made of and what he's going to bring to the table here.
No, absolutely. In the top left-hand side, though, there's going to be the player from Dragon Kaiser Gaming. It is Jieshi.
One of the many good Chinese Protoss players out there. Perhaps not quite Firefly, but definitely a fun player to watch. And had a couple of good runs in Kung Fu Cups and whatnot. Bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of that man. Representing Goes to Esports, it is the MeomaikA.
We get ourselves into game number 1. Game 1 is on the Singapore server, then we'll be off to Korea for games 2 and 3. And it looks as though my connection to Singapore sucks because I'm stuttering a little bit, so apologies for that, guys. But at the very least for games 2 and 3, we'll be back on Korea, where it's been fine for the rest of the day so far.
It's not just yours, mate. There's
Yeah,
nothing like playing a warm-up game on the NA server and then you get to play game 1 on Singapore. And you're like, okay. I often run into our Protoss friend, Ranger, and we always play on the Singaporean server. And I was like, well, this is going to be a fun game. And let's just say that I hope I win on strategy because I know that winning on micro is not going to be a thing.
Yeah, sometimes that strategy-only style is kind of what you got to go for, right? Just pray. The micro is not going to be involved at all. Obviously, for these guys, it's obviously somewhat in between to play Singapore first and then Korea the next couple, so slight advantage MeomaikA right now, then Jieshi will take the advantage a little bit for games 2 and 3. Ping-wise, let's just see a few links coming up, so getting those ready to go, and all of that set for these early stages.
Yeah, MeomaikA deciding to go for the pool before the hatch. That obviously meant that he couldn't get the hatch down. He's going to rally a couple of Zerglings to the other side of the map. If I was Jieshi, I think I would go for the safety Zealot. Seems that he feels he's not going to need it. Even just 4 links, though, getting on top of your probes before your Adept is out is going to be annoying. And now he goes for the safety Zealot body, but that's awfully late, no? Because I feel like that Zealot, maybe the probe can temporarily wall off and then you can still get the Zealot out, but kind of odd, because I feel like if you wanted that Zealot, you could have had that Zealot already. Then it would have just stood there, but hey, now at least the Chrono Boost will already go into the Adept a tiny bit. And I guess crisis averted. Still going to be a little bit annoying here, but I think if Jieshi doesn't mess up, these links will not be able to do a whole lot. I'm happy to see that he still made the Zealot. Otherwise, I think you're in danger of losing a pylon, or you're forced to build a few more buildings than you were planning to, and then your own build order is in shambles. Now I'd still say that I'd be kind of happy with this as a Protoss, where I'm like, hey, I know your expand was late, you went pull first, you made a couple links, didn't do anything.
Yep, nothing really gained so far, and Jieshi is able to hold off nicely. Now just gets into the Stargate, and yeah, so far, definitely not a bad start for our Protoss player. And then sometimes this is what happens with MeomaikA, right? He tries to do things a little differently and a bit weird, and then if they don't work out, he already finds himself playing from a little bit behind.
But this is also, I think, a scenario that he is incredibly familiar with, where he's like, yeah, but aren't you always behind? They're like, well, you really don't have to be, man. Like, you could just go hatch first and make a whole bunch of drones, but MeomaikA likes to do things a bit differently. That is still a super quick lair. And the Adept, by the way, is deep into the main base, so maybe we can take a little look at that, as that Adept got 2 drones. That
And
is
gets out.
actually, yeah, that's pretty painful, especially if you already have not the most economic start ever. Losing 2 drones is a much bigger deal than what it otherwise would be. And Jieshi is going to play it very safe, going Void Ray first. Maybe Void Ray into a lot of gateways for some glaives. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm kind of into it, right? The Void Ray denies the information, then you get the glaives out nice and quickly after, you hit hard. I mean, that's 3 additional gateways coming down. This Overlord will see those extra gates coming through, so gets that bit of information, at least MeomaikA. I feel like this is the kind of style I can do very well, especially if MeomaikA does something like a Hydra Den, because Hydra's pretty flimsy until they get into better numbers. So, yeah, Glaives has a very good chance right now.
It's always a bit funny to see Glaives against Hydra Link, because if the Adepts are just taking a little too long to take care of the links, then the Hydras can shine. But if the Adepts show up in overwhelming numbers before you have a lot of Zerglings to protect the Hydras, and the Adepts can just fire at Hydras, then the Hydras can melt. I think that these fights are always a little bit hard to call. And they're also hard, I think, to call as a player, where it's like, where do you have the right amount of Link Hydra? And where do you not? When do the Adepts shine? When do they fall off? Because it's like, alright, if the numbers are small, the Adepts are very good. The Adepts are near a battery, they're very good, as we have a little drop lord action too in the main, but unfortunately this is not going to do too much damage either. This really is a trademark MeomaikA game where a lot of things don't go his way. Economically, it doesn't look good. Strategically, it doesn't look good. But then it wouldn't be a MeomaikA game if he doesn't soon eventually find a magical fight somewhere, Wadi. Right now, I don't see it. It's not supposed to happen. But if anyone has a lot of experience with taking magical fights with terrible drone count, it's MeomaikA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It shouldn't happen, but then MeomaikA makes things happen that shouldn't happen all the time. This really shouldn't happen. I mean, as long as these adepts stay together, I mean, yeah. If you just jump on any amount of Hydras, maybe if you jump on the Hydras and Lings at the same time and everything fights all at once, but there's only 2 Hydras here initially. We dive straight through. The Hydras go down immediately. The Lings are barely in any sort of numbers. 1 adept died so far, and that's kind of a summary of how this fight's going to continue pretty much. So, yeah, not exactly looking the greatest. The adepts are going to jump up into the main base, and this is really just a case of MeomaikA not having a good start and then not being ready for this in time. The Hydras don't exactly do him any favors in that regard.
Now, 4 adepts remaining, 7 drones dying. Obviously, Jieshi could have made more. Doesn't make more. Now, there's still going to be that scary moment, though, right? Where MeomaikA can just go pedal to the metal and rally everything to the other side of the map. I believe that was some sort of a construction to maybe create a bit of a creep highway. If I was Jieshi at this point, I wouldn't hate an extra battery or a cannon or something. I guess we cannot build any cannons yet because the forge isn't done. Like, this is still, it shouldn't be scary, and it's definitely not going to be scary if MeomaikA runs away Lings like this, but there is this tiny moment where maybe MeomaikA can make something happen, because this could be the moment. I love the overcharge very quickly. Now, the Void Ray is kind of exposed on the left side of our screen. Can the Hydras do it? I think that every second that goes by is obviously a very bad one. He cannot run into that choke point, but MeomaikA has no choice. Why doesn't he go for the natural body? Why is he, okay, maybe because battery overcharge is expired?
I don't know. I actually feel like going to the natural might have been a play, get a pylon and shut down some gates perhaps. This is just still not really enough for MeomaikA. Like, he's getting damage at least, but he's still down 9 workers, so he needs a whole lot more. The extra Hydra show up, but all you got to do right now as Jieshi is just keep warping in Adepts. Adepts deal with everything here, and behind it, just in case, he's also going to get to Colossi, so he'll have that in his favor as well.
I genuinely wonder how that would have gone if he just went for the freaking natural, because indeed there is no battery there, and even if overcharge ran out, you still had the potential to surround that Immortal immediately, then the Immortal falls, and if the Adepts and the Sentries were forced to walk away from that choke point, from that battery, then maybe the Lings would be able to get the wraparound and the Hydras were able to shine. I feel like there was a tiny bit of hope in a game where there really shouldn't have been any hope, because I was with you when you said, this time around, it really shouldn't happen. I was like, yeah, that's the best way to put it. Because the man had damn nothing at home. And it's like, okay, he loses a couple Hydras, loses 7 drones. But he did clean up all the Adepts. And then perhaps you can do that MeomaikA thing, where you just rally stuff to the other side of the map. And I think in the natural, there was a tiny chance. But running into double battery, with or without an overcharge at that point, I think that was just a bit too much. Because the Hydras alone, too fragile. But the Lings, they just couldn't do anything in those choke points.
Yeah, just way too easy for Jieshi to just sit there and just, again, put out a lot of damage. And, yeah, there just wasn't enough damage coming through on the other side of that. So, really had a big impact at the end. These Adepts now moving down at the right-hand side. So they're going to move across, move into position. Going to go hit the 4th hatch a little bit, perhaps. Look for a little bit of an opportunity over on that one. But, yeah, just wait for a chance to mostly try and grab some more workers and just try and make life as difficult as possible here for our Zerg.
This is where I hear Reyna's voice in the back of my head when he looks at the Zerg build order and says 51 drones, no Veilings, no roaches, into a hive after a filled Hydraling attack. My goat. That's, I think, how Reyna would analyze this game. And yeah, MeomaikA is just doing a little bit of everything. Now we also fire off +1 melee, 9 minutes into a game. I'm afraid that this is just not going anywhere. Like, I'm a strong believer in the Viper, mate, especially since the Viper got buffed, right? Woohoo! But yeah, even if you abduct the Colossus now, I think the Colossus will just be like, cool. Now I'll kill everything from on top of your army instead of utilizing the extended thermal lens and the 9 range I'm getting. Because MeomaikA just does not have a lot of things going for himself. Jieshi could retreat. I don't think he really has to, in all honesty. I kind of think he should just continue pushing, but maybe he says like, nah, okay, this is the one option I didn't really like, because obviously Adepts fall off if there is a large number of Roaches, Ravages, Lurkers, or even a bunch of Banelings, right? But if it's just Hydra Ling, it's actually super nice to keep these Adepts with your army. I don't think you really have to get rid of them like that, but I also think that Jieshi doesn't really care. He probably feels that he's absolutely cruising now with his current army. And he's not wrong. But the longer the game goes, the more likely it is that eventually Abducts could matter, and then the Stalkers could struggle a tiny bit with Hydras. It's a lot of if, buts, and maybes, and it looks like a disaster for MeomaikA, but I still think that sometimes if you can end it, you should probably just try to end it, rather than let your opponent try to get some value out of Hive.
Yeah, I mean, you're only giving your opponent chances to get back in, whereas right now it definitely seems as though this army should never really have a chance, like you say, with Hive. Maybe there's a way, maybe there's a chance. Here come the Vipers. Let's see if they can make enough happen with Abducts. Like you say, it might just be a case of the Colossi have abducted and they continue to kill things. Well, the Colossi actually end up dropping pretty quickly. A fair few Hydras left. The Vipers, one of them goes down. The other one starts to get away, and MeomaikA is able to take, well, a better fight than I think you would have expected.
Yeah, and I don't think that would have happened if he would have just attacked together with the Adepts in the natural right after he took out the 4th base, because at that point the Vipers didn't even have energy yet. But there is no need to panic just yet if you're a JC fan, or if you're Jieshi in this case in this game, because obviously he knows that 3 bases are killed a bunch of drones throughout the game. Hydras are pretty expensive units, and MeomaikA likes to make them of relatively weak drone count, so you can lose a few robo units in this scenario, in this specific game, and not be too concerned about it. But that probably is still a tiny bit scary, where you're like, oh, okay, we're still battling. Like, I'm gonna have to play good from here on out. Up 19 workers, a much quicker 4th base. There shouldn't be a worry in the world, but that definitely was a bit scarier than what it should have been.
On his way to Storm, try and give himself a little bit of a helping hand as well, so aiming for that too. I'm just going to see how Stalkers re-engage down towards the bottom right. The Overseer going to gather up the Lings and the Hydras.
MeomaikA meanwhile dropping an Ultra List Cavern at 59 drones, by the way. Ambitious. I mean, oh no, it's the discount Wardy. Minus 25 minerals, man.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, in a previous patch, I would have never been able to afford it, but now, cheaper Ultras? Sign me up, baby. 59 drones, I believe.
Ling's gonna grab a group of Zealots over here. They will go down quickly, as you do see a force moving around. Just a couple Zealots then, just staying back. Well, at the same time, the main army is actually going to go diving from Jieshi, so across the map he goes straight in. Ling's taking some damage to start. Now Ling's coming from the other side. Hydras are going to come catch it as well. We're going to get a disruptor shot going out. High Templars do not have Storm. We're actually going to abduct the High Templar in. Oh my goodness.
Why would we attack with 4 High Templars 9 seconds before Storm, and as all High Templars die, Storm finally finishes up, and once more he can get away with it because he's just been so far ahead. And MeomaikA is just playing with an underwhelming drone count, but that was kind of ugly, man. Seeing 4 High Templars seconds away from Storm being finished up, stepping on creep, getting fully surrounded by Zerglings, like that's just not necessary.
That was not it, man. That was not it, as we see the Ultra Cav and the Chitinous Plating coming through. We're going to try and get to Ultras. MeomaikA, I mean, again, Jieshi is just so far ahead. If MeomaikA had ever gone up in drones, then everything that Jieshi's doing would actually be really bad, but it still doesn't matter because MeomaikA is just so far behind on drones. Jieshi can just rebuild out of each and every one of these disastrous feats.
Yep. You know you're in a good spot where you can lose all your attack units and all your High Templars, but it's okay because you had a couple of Zealots getting you further ahead on the right side of the map. I think MeomaikA is thinking of a tiny run-by. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, that run-by is actually working. These Lings have Adreno and +2 melee. Forge might get picked up over here, Wardy. I mean, is there a world where MeomaikA can eventually somehow get a couple of cheap Ultras out? This is a great run-by. A Forge, 7 probes are empowering some stuff. That is a weird army. Now we're going to go abduct the Colossus. I want to take a look at these Ultras. If they are able to fight, I mean, they don't have any armor upgrades. What they do have is Chitinous Plating.
Yep, they should be fairly tanky. So many Zealots are back on that right-hand side, hitting this base yet again. They're going to really knock this down. A couple Ultras, Lings, Hydras coming across to clean it up. Meanwhile, Stalkers, High Templar, and a Colossus coming down the left. The Hatchery will start to take some damage. The Ultra going to begin to move across here. High Templars will go running. One of them very nearly going down. We're going to turn back onto a couple of Ultras here. Feedback's coming down. The Storm's on the Hydras. But it does look as though, once again, the army of Jieshi having to recall out. The Ultras get to chomp up a little bit towards the end. You know, if you hid the supplies, you'd be like, man, MeomaikA is killing it in this game. Like, how is Jieshi still finding an army? It's just the drone kind of MeomaikA is so bad.
Yeah, and then you see all the cannons, and you know that Jieshi can just warp in a bunch of units. Now we're landing some sweet storms, and there is a battery overcharge. And unfortunately, even a battery overcharge and a cannon is just a little bit too much. But yeah, you can make a sick highlight reel out of just the fights. So MeomaikA in this game, you'd be like, man, Mio is feeling it today. He's on fire. Yeah, unfortunately, just the macro behind a little bit. Obviously, it started off with that first adept already getting a couple of drones, and the follow-up of the adepts with resonating glaives. Yeah, the Protoss, yeah, I was about to say, the Protoss must have lost way more resources in this game. That's something I didn't take a look at yet, but you don't often see a Protoss losing almost 4,000 resources more, like we're playing a ZVT over here, Waddy. No, it's quite the opposite. It's just MeomaikA things.
It really is just MeomaikA things, man. I mean, we remembered 6 minutes, we're like, there's surely no way. And then here we are, 16 minutes in. 10 minutes later, MeomaikA continues to, like you say, make highlight reels of the engagements, but without really a backbone to win the game from. So Jieshi is remaxed, and he's like, okay, surely this time, if I fight, surely this is the one.
Yeah. War Prism in the main base as well, that's going to be very difficult. Before this game ends, I do want to give a little shout out to the tiny creep highway that we have in the center of the map, just all by itself. It's completely yeah, has nothing to do with the rest of the game. Zealots in the main base are battling, and these lings obviously +3 melee adrenal glands. That is scary. But 10, 11 drones have gone down. There is a big army in the bottom left side. This many Archons should be too much to deal with, even though there are 4 Ultras in the mix. But don't forget that the Ultras only have chitinous plating. They don't have anything else.
Yep, as you see these ultras turning around, Archon's going to start taking damage. Storm coming down as, well, there's a yoink on the Colossus. This time I actually think the Colossus will just walk away out of this for free. As we keep on storming, the Hydras will not get the Colossus, and that should just about do it, as we killed a lot of probes on the other side. The Link counterattack went absolutely huge, but yeah, I mean, what a game.
Yeah, in the end, Jieshi did end up winning this game while losing more resources. Definitely not something we see very often in PvZ, unless maybe it turns into like an epic late game with carriers and you just had really good trades, right? Or the other way around, where you expanded them and you just kind of donated Zealot after DT run by. But yeah, this was just a game in the history of StarCraft 2. And honestly, sometimes you say like, oh, if you hide the name tags, I couldn't have possibly figured out who this is. I think you could have hit these name tags all day, every day, and everyone that has ever played or watched MeomaikA be like, that looks like a MeomaikA game. And it absolutely was.
Yeah, everything about it was MeomaikA, from trying to go fast Hydras, to them not really working, to then somehow the game's still going on. And with that, she does take the 1-0 lead, and with that 1-0 lead, he is now going to have a little bit of server advantage as well as we move to Korea for game number 2. Should be a little bit better ping for Jieshi than it is MeomaikA, so he will have that advantage for the next couple of games. If it goes to a game 3, obviously Jieshi one more map here, and he is going to net himself the first win of the ESL regional season.
Maybe perhaps China domination once more, even though it's way too early to go there. But last season we had 6 Chinese players and 2 Taiwanese players making it into the playoffs. Right now, the entire top 8, besides Has, and I guess Nice lost. Yeah, besides Has is Chinese again. These dudes just completely dominating their region, Waddy.
They really do, man. Like, it was, it's kind of crazy to just see how good they are, and especially like SCV getting a win. If he's going to be another big Chinese player out here, yeah, it's getting wild, man. Kind of
Take a look at some of the other results, unless I am delaying the invite, and apparently I am. Sorry, mate.
Okay.
Oceanborn is going to be our second battle map. Also, we had a tiny link drop, by the way. Very often, Waddy, do we have a link drop, and we talk about it so little because there was a void ray on top of it, and you're also link dropping into a guy with a bunch of gateways that were scouted. So it's not a scenario where it's like, oh, all they have is oracles that are flying around on the other side of the map. It's like, no, it's a void ray and a depths at home, and MeomaikA's like, well, that has never stopped me from going for a link drop before. And to be fair, later on he found a lot of damage, great run bys, but a day late and a couple dollars short, as the economy just never wasn't there for Mio. The fights, they were absolutely there, just the economy wasn't.
Yeah, if he actually was able to take any sort of like, if we were able to have like any sort of economy, like if he has just a point where he builds 20 drones, he probably wins the game. Like, because so many of these fights went so wrong for Jieshi. Protoss is not meant to be thousands of resources lost behind the Zerg when it comes to trades. That's not how StarCraft 2 works. That's not how PvZ adds up, but apparently it did in that series, and it was still okay for Jieshi. Game 2 on Oceanborn, and I guess we just dive back into the world of MeomaikA. What is he going to do this time? Because it's definitely going to be MeomaikA that kind of sets the pacing of this second game, Roddy.
Yeah, and the first game, like, obviously Golden Iron, one of the smaller maps where I was like, okay, it's probably some sort of a quick Hydra attack. I don't know if it's Hydra Lingbane or Hydra whatever, but I think that really lived up to the expectations we had. I don't know what to expect on a map this large. Like, has to be something weird. We know it's gonna be weird. We just don't know what kind of weird just yet. Well, I guess that is already giving us an answer. We'll talk about that soon. Top left side, we are looking at the main base of the man that's representing Dragon Kaizi Gaming. It is Jieshi.
Up against the blue Zerg in the bottom right side. Opening with that very fast spawning pool, we have MeomaikA.
Is there more to it? Or is it just going to be a 12 pool?
I guess just 12 pool, but let's see, I suppose. As we have our...
I feel like last game that probe went into the main base kind of late, unless I missed it, that it was in the main and it went back. Maybe that's why Mio's doing it, because last game obviously we went pull first, but it was a very late economic pull. And maybe he looked at it and it's like, if you just keep your probe in the natural, perhaps I can surprise you with a 12 pull. But this time around, that probe is in the main relatively early, so Jieshi has some time to already work on his defensive setup. And he's going to get the second gateway, Cybercore on the low ground. He's going to chrono boost out the Zealot immediately. He's realizing he's going to have to take this very serious, and we'll take it from there. Now, I don't really hate these starts for Zerg in general, right? As long as you make sure that those adepts that eventually will come out don't deal too much damage on your side of the map.
Yeah, no, that's the main thing, right? Like, as long as you just kind of keep the pros at home and you don't take damage yourself, you can move out of these positions pretty okay. Obviously, you force a second gateway before Nexus, but that's only going to power up the possibility of obviously plenty of units coming out. So you try and dance with these lings. I kind of love that Jieshi just has the probe here, just in case he messes up with the Zealot, trying to chase those lings out. He's got the probe to throw down a structure to block once again. So kind of love that idea.
Actually, we had a second Zealot that was like 99% complete. But I guess after Jieshi realized that he didn't really need it, that this wasn't all that scary, that his opponent was just going 12 pool into macro, he's like, nah, I can't really get any value out of a second Zealot. And as you mentioned, he still had the backup probe there too, so he can just cancel it and go into Adepts immediately. And those 100 minerals, like, there are moments where I'm like, analyzing a single Zealot, whether it's worth it or not. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but in these moments it really is, right? Because those 100 minerals, if you're only mining off one base, if you have to wait for that, then your Nexus is a whole bunch later. Kind of put some extra pressure on yourself to truly find damage with the Adepts. So canceling that, I think, is just a sweet move.
Yep, makes a lot of sense, as a couple of Adepts will try now to poke in towards this natural and see if there's some damage for them, shading through a couple of queens nearby. Probably doesn't look like too much of an opportunity. That should be a shade cancel, and so it is.
The queens and the lings on the low ground, wouldn't hate it if the queens can just poke a little. There are some sweet spots, obviously, in every single mineral line that you can go for it. I think he went for it with the Adepts, by the way, mate. So we have two Adepts deep into the main base. They do get surrounded by slow Zerglings. It's 2 drones dying. Third drone does die, but this time around, like, we lose 3 drones instead of 2, but we killed 2 Adepts. While in the previous game, MeomaikA killed no Adept and lost 2 drones. So I hate this one a bit less, Waddy. I think it's actually kind of alright for the Zerg.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we follow up with right now. The Twilight Council's already on the way in from Jieshi, so he is going to go straight into Twilight this game. Bit different from going the Void Ray into Twilight last time around. We see Link Speed coming up, and Jieshi just already going all the way up towards the 4 gateways, just saying, hey, I've already got 2, let's go to 4, probably get the glaives, and just say, maybe I feel like I defended well enough that it's going to be tough for you to defend glaives from here. Robot Facility to follow up as well, as the few Adepts will scare away the Lings that came scouting at the front.
That was a very random spore crawler that went down, by the way, in the main base. Like, and if you already lost a couple drones to Adepts and you went 12 pull, building random spores, not exactly, I think, what you're looking for if you're truly trying to make your way back into this game. Just defending against a bunch of Adepts with glaive, if you don't have roaches or you don't have banelings, it's going to be pretty difficult. It's not impossible if they don't have a pylon and a gateway or a warp prism on the other side of the map, but it can definitely still be difficult. I think it will all work out for MeomaikA, but I think he could have been a tiny bit further ahead than what he's now actually ended up being. If he is ahead at all, which is a very questionable statement.
Yeah, I mean, you're down a few drones. MeomaikA's not in the business of making a lot of drones, so I worry that that's going to be a persistent thing throughout the rest of this game now, as you got that Glaives coming up, and once that Glaives is done, we are really going to just get across.
Surround on the depths in the center of the map, as MeomaikA decided to just go for it. Hey, lovely moment to get on top of these depths, water, because Resonating Glaives was 10 seconds away from finishing up. So now he just picked off, I think 3 more, no, 4 even. It got 4 out of the 6 adepts there. What a great little catch from MeomaikA.
Yeah, awesome little grab. It means that obviously now it's going to be less powerful as adept attack. I mean, don't even shade across the map. Dark Shrine and the Prism on the way up. So we are going to go DTs behind this as Jieshi. As MeomaikA is just getting roaches up, I feel like the adepts are missing their timing completely, so they're not going to do anything anymore. And now it's more so a reliance on the Dark Templar.
Yeah, no. And then I think that Jieshi realized that as well. He's like, oh, damn it, come on. Like, I was kind of faking it, that I had a couple of adepts, and then I had way more adepts at home. And obviously the 2 groups were going to sync up together. That's where Glaives were going to kick in. And I think there was a lot of potential in it. But great job by MeomaikA realizing that he had more than enough links to take the fight against a couple of adepts that were AFK. And obviously right before a big upgrade. And the fact that we made those early spores, hey, maybe that's something that now MeomaikA can still get some value of. But just dealing with this many roaches is already kind of annoying. We have a single Stalker in the mix. The Stalker is the only thing that really deals damage here. We have 2 batteries, but as long as that Nexus isn't done, you can't really use Overcharge, but that's 1 Immortal showing up, Wadi. And this is where it's very sad for MeomaikA that he led the charge with all these links. It's not the first time that I kind of feel like he leads the charge with links. Well, it'd be better to just let the other units do their thing, because all those links that went down there, they didn't really add a whole lot.
No, they really didn't. Just could have been a little bit more powerful as the Ravagers morph. MeomaikA is going to keep sending it with Roach Speed finishing. Prism going across the map during this, and we do have DTs available. No Overseer morphed in just yet, so that could be a problem across the board defensively and offensively.
Yep, that is definitely going to be a problem. There is an Overlord here that could potentially morph into an Overseer. At this point, we are just ignoring that 1 Dark Templar. That 1 Immortal is going to fall, but that 1 DT is just having a field day, gunning down these, or swiping down rather, these Ravagers. As most of the Ravagers will fall. And obviously, if we trade out armies, that is going to be fantastic for the Protoss, who's also going to find a bit of damage on the other side of the map. And don't forget, he can still just warp in a bunch of DTs and adepts with Resonating Glaives at home. And on top of that, the Protoss is still enjoying a little worker lead. Yeah, this was unfortunately not good enough for MeomaikA because he had no Overseer there. I think with an Overseer, Wadi, that could have looked very different.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because if the DT doesn't get to do so much free damage, then MeomaikA probably just overwhelms the 3rd base. He doesn't lose as much important tech as quickly. He's going to come through with Lings again, and this Archon is just quite far forward on its own. That's the splash damage to help against these Zerglings, so a little bit of a shame to lose that so soon and so unnecessarily. Now the Super Battery pops up, going to try and keep this Immortal alive. For the moment, that will be the case as we push back the Ling army.
Why did we not have an Overseer even for round 2? I guess MeomaikA really thought it was there. Then in the end he morphed in a second one. But those 2-3 Dark Templars there, once more, did a lot more damage than they were supposed to. And this is giving the Protoss some extra time to really get some value out of that 17 worker lead. War Prism is still being a nuisance. I mean, MeomaikA is as all in, as committed as you could be. There's even a random Evo chamber in the middle line of the 3rd base. As that Archon does die, this Immortal does have its work cut out for him, but he's got a friend showing up, the 2 big boys. I think we'll be able to hold down the fort here. MeomaikA's got the army supply advantage, but I think once the links are done, you can just rely on these Immortals, have a field day with them. And we definitely have to take a look at that Evo chamber though, Wadi. As soon as these Immortals clean up, okay, that was actually a very good snipe on the first one. Now the second one gets picked up as well. And Immortal number 3 gets surrounded. I mean, MeomaikA wouldn't be MeomaikA if he cannot turn a very dire scenario into something that looks somewhat positive. But just like in some of those PvPs, there's your Evo, by the way, mate. We have a battery overcharge that the Zerg this time around just can't do anything about. Not enough ranged units, can blow it up. And I think that battery overcharge will be good enough for Jieshi to stabilize.
Yeah, Jieshi just needs a couple of moments to get the right amount of units of each unit out, right? Just as, you know, beforehand he didn't really have a way to deal with Lings. Then just as he found his way through the Lings, he actually lost the Immortals. The Roaches became a bit more of a problem. So yeah, with batteries here, and I think Super Battery is obviously about halfway off cooldown. They're going to lose 1 more Immortal. But I think Jieshi is just slowly but surely bringing himself into a good enough hold that he is going to have it. I mean, MeomaikA is doing this off 35 workers. His third base has gone down to that DT on the other side. So every time MeomaikA tries to fight in, it's just not quite enough. He truly needs to get Jieshi killed off here, and it just is not happening. Not with these Stalkers sitting back, sitting defensively, and now starting to really clean up the tech units.
If there was no Blink here, then this would have been a very exciting fight, because then I think we would have been able to land a couple of great corrosive balls, but Blink was there as well.